Hi, my name is Wendy Conroy. I work here at Sugar Creek Gardens, and today I thought we would do something really fun. I thought maybe we would try to make a fairy garden. I just want to talk to you about fairy gardens, how to put them together, and how to care for them. One of the first things I did was in the early spring is I put together this fairy garden, and it does have plants that do well in the cooler temperatures. I have violets and a sweet alyssum, and then I also have creeping jenny. And you know something, fairies, when I think of fairies, fairies live in the woodlands. They like moist, lush green plants. They like to live in nature. So what I did was I went off into the woods and I found a really neat log with a hole in it. And if you can see, this is a home for my fairy garden. Roof is this wonderful fake moss that we sell. We just plop it in here. There's a fairy in here, stepping stones. Anyway, what I was going to do is I was going to show you some of my favorite plants that I like to use, and then some other fairy garden items for our shop, from our shop that we have, and we were going to put together a fairy garden. So really quickly, let me just show you something. Found this in the woods. Really neat thing you could incorporate into your fairy garden, whether it just be a little area for the fairies to sit in. If you had a big pot and you wanted to use something like this, look at that, it's got a door, it's got windows, it's got everything. You could really make a neat fairy garden house with that guy. Okay, so what you want to do when you make a fairy garden, what you really want to do so that you don't have fairy soup is you get a pot. You want to put rocks in it. Rocks help for the drainage. Make sure your pot has a hole in the bottom so that when you do water your fairy garden, the water will flow out. That's what I've done with this one. Some of my favorite plants I love to use, and I like to use plants that are more for the shade, that are a little bit more lush looking, because that's what I think of when I think of fairy garden. Really cute begonias that we got this year. They almost look like roses and they stay low. You want to use plants that stay low and maybe mound. Also, you want to use a plant with a little bit of height so that your fairy garden or your fairy home looks like it's nestled in the woods. This is a little juniper. It's a tree. Wonderful plant to use. Sweet alyssum. I love the variegation on the leaves because when I put a pot together or a fairy garden together, I like to have some kind of commonality in my plants. I have, if you see, there's pink going through this one, there's pink in that one. This is a fern. This is a perennial. It's a Japanese painted fern. It will get big, but what you can do is when your fairy garden, when the season's over, you can pull this out of your fairy garden and then put it into your actual garden. But if you look, there's that pink running through that. So it kind of gives your fairy garden somewhat of a, I don't know what you'd say, like a matching. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay, this is tread and trail. This is creeping thyme, stays low, almost looks like a mossy grass in your fairy garden. Another plant we have is, this is just a ground cover. It's beautiful, it stays flat. Ajuga, I love ajuga. Of course it flowers now, but it is very hardy and it's hard to kill. I also love to use liriope. This is variegated liriope. It does a nice, kind of like a moundy clump. It doesn't go crazy. It's very hardy, but it gives you some color and texture. So just to do this quickly, what I'm going to do is I've potted this guy up right here. I'm going to put some alyssum in just to make it the fairy garden look nestled. I love the white color. And I'm going to be just placing the pots in here, but of course when you guys are planting your fairy garden, you're going to take your plants out of the pots. To give it more of a nestled look, I'm going to use this really cute begonia that looks like a rose. And like I said, the pink, you can see the pink here, and if you look over here, you can see a little bit of the pink also there. The front, we want to keep it so it's low, so that we're kind of peeking in at our fairy garden, and it does have that nestled look. This is our Japanese painted fern. Of course, you're going to take it out of the pot, but I'm going to put it back here, and it's going to be kind of poking out a little bit, but just to give you the idea of what it looks like. I'm going to pop that guy in there. No, you know what? I'm going to take it out of the pot. I think it looks weird. Let's do that. Now, see how that's kind of looking nestled in? I think a fairy would come and live here any day of the week. All right, we're going to put an ajuga in. I'm going to just dig it in here. And like I said, I put rocks in the bottom of the pot because you want the water to drain when you water your fairy garden. Or, you know what you're going to end up with? You're going to end up with fairy soup, and the roots will rot in your plants. Okay, so now it's kind of like we have a nice little area for our fairy to be. Why don't we give our fairy maybe one of these little guys, a structure like this, and I like the height on that. We could do, being that we have this white over here, let's pull some white in over here on this side. Do a fence here and a little bit of a fence over here. Let's clear this up. And this is low growing and stays flat. Okay. And then if you want to put a river or a lake in your fairy garden, we have these blue stones. I always like to lay them down and make maybe a little pond and make it flowing through your fairy garden. Would be another idea. I have a table here for my fairies. It's just made out of a rock. We sell it at our shop. And you know, the fairy could just be sitting right there at the table, having her a little picnic, and here's her bird bath, so her birds have water. And we'll put that right there and kind of nestle that one in. You could make stones and do a stepping stone path. I have some stones right here at my feet that I'm going to use. We're going to put just a path leading up to where the fairy's sitting. Oh, there's a little bench for her. Do a gate if you wanted to do a gate somewhere at the back. There we go. And if you do decide you want to make a river or a stream, probably not a river, a stream, you would want to do a little one of these bridges. Okay, so see, now we've put all the plants in. We've got some tall at the back. We've got some low at the front. Our fairy looks like she's nestled into her little forest. Our fairy garden is complete.